Hello guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at CSS Media Query Super Crash Course. And this was actually a custom request that was made, and I promised to do a quick super crash course on CSS Media Query, covering all the essential things you need to know about CSS Media Query. And now, don't worry if you want something more in depth or you're looking for something more in depth. Very soon, I cross my fingers. I hope I'll be able to actually dive into CSS and be able to cover from the beginning to intermediate to the advanced lessons on CSS. Now, CSS Media Query is something that is very and super important, something that you must have or might have heard about as a web developer. And now, let's dive right into what CSS Media Query is actually about. Now, what is CSS Media Query? Now, this is a way to write CSS styles for different media types and capabilities. It allows you to write or to load different CSS styles for things such as printers, computer screens, screen readers, and at different sizes, orientation, and more. It is used in responsive web design. Your responsive web design is not complete, never complete without CSS Media Query. So you can see CSS Media Query is very important and essential for you while styling up your pages. Okay, so let's look at some CSS media types. Now, these are some of the terms that you might hear when working with CSS media queries, things such as media types, media features, and I'm going to break every one of them down. Okay, the first value we have for this media type is all, which refers to all other media types. Okay, we have print, which is used for printers. We have screen, which is used for computer screens, tablets, smartphones, etc. And then we have speech, which is used for screen readers, which read out the text on your web page. We also have something called media feature. Okay, now you might have seen some of these if you've ever used media query before. You hear of things such as max width, which refers to the maximum width of the device display. Okay, we have min width, we have max height, we have min height, we have orientation, and these are just handful of some of the media feature that we have. So there are a lot of things that you could target and you could write your media query for to cover various use cases and all bases. Now, let's look at something very important, which is the media query rule itself. Okay, CSS media query rule. Now, the media rule is used in media queries to apply different styles for different media types and devices. And we're going to be looking at the rule now. It goes something like this. At media, now the parts that are highlighted yellow are the parts that are actually optional. So you could decide to, for example, use the not, or you can use the only. So these parts are actually optional, but then you need to actually add your media type, which as you remember, we can have all, we can have print. So you could target for print. Okay, you could target for, let's say, speech, you could target for screens, and you can target all. So, and then we have and followed by the media feature. The media feature will be something like you add the max, maybe 500 pixels, or the min width maybe 500 pixels, 600 pixels, and you can add, combine different media features. Okay, you are targeting particular media feature and another media feature. So this and keyword or not, they are optional. So, and then you can still target for two or more media features, and then right here in the middle of your curly braces you can then have your CSS code. Now, one interesting final note before we continue. Let's take a look at this media query. We have at media, min width is 600 pixels. Now, this is something that confused me a lot when I started writing media queries, and it's something that I see that a lot of people still have question about. At what point would this particular media query, this particular CSS be applied? Now, whenever you're making use of min width or maybe min height, you're basically telling the browser that, okay, from this particular point, this particular width or height upward. So when you say okay 600 pixels mean width, you are basically moving from that width upward. Now this type of approach is called a mobile first approach. So basically you are starting from the minimum width possible, then you are scaling up from mobile to tablets and to desktop. Now to the contrary, when you have max width or max height, you're basically scaling down. So max width means that from 600 pixels downward. So from 600 pixels, I want you to actually apply these styles downward. Now this type of approach is called a desktop first approach. Now without wasting much time, without any further ado, let's actually look at some CSS media queries example and finally learn how to write your own CSS media query. Okay, just a quick one before we get started. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel just in a click of a button, and I promise you, you'll really be glad you did. I promise to release tons of helpful tutorials, tips, and tricks. And if you also have any requests, you can also let me know, and I'm going to make videos about them. And secondly, we have an ongoing coding mentorship program, okay, right here on training.thelifetechfact.com. The link also will be in the description below, and we have at the moment for various courses. We have front end starter course, we have UI design course, we have React JS course, and we have full stack React course, and they are pretty much very affordable. Okay, this is being displayed because I'm viewing it right here from Nigeria, so it's being displayed in my local currency. They are just about $5. Yeah, the React starter course is about $5, and then these about $10 each, which is pretty much cheap for the value we're going to be offering. And if you look at the course details right here, you can still cover tons of things from HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and many more not even included right here. So don't hesitate to start learning now. Okay, so I have a HTML file and a CSS file set up right here. Before I continue, just know that I'm going to upload this code to a GitHub repo in which you can actually download and play around with. Alright, so let's take a look at a preview of what we have. Alright, we have this, we have our nav right here, and then we have some dummy content. Okay, so here's the nav inside of the header and contains all those links. And then we have our main element, which contains h1, the paragraphs with dummy text. And I added a bit of styling to the menu right here. Okay, we have a flex displayed here, and it actually has a cool transition right here, and we have all of these. So how about we try and write media query? Now, due to the fact that Bootstrap is the most popular CSS frameworks and what you're probably used to, I've actually copied their responsive breakpoints, and that's what we're going to use for the example. So I'm just going to paste it right here. Alright, so let me quickly explain this. So now Bootstrap takes a mobile first approach, and I think tons of most CSS frameworks actually do. Alright, so basically all the styles that are applied right here, they are going to apply throughout all screen size, except when you come inside of the media query here and then you change any of the properties. So think of it this way: all of the styles out here apply from 0 pixels, mean height, mean width, okay, and then when you get to 576, mean width of 576, you're going to specify CSS properties you want to change or you want to add upward. Okay, this is going to scale up to around 768 pixels. Okay, you're going to specify the CSS properties you want to add or change, and then up to 992 pixels, and then 1200 pixels and 1400 pixels. You can also do something like add, okay, let's say 2000 pixels. Yeah, targeted for 2000, from 2000 upwards. You get the point. So that's basically the premise of CSS queries. So how about we actually see that in action? Now the first thing is I'm going to come here, my developer tools right here, and then click on this. This is going to switch us to responsive mode. All right, the first thing I want to do is, now remember, if you look at, you can see that there is a padding right here, is spacing. And if we should right click and we should inspect, if you don't understand okay how this work, I actually have a free series rather on Firefox and Chrome developer tools. I'm going to leave the link also in the description. Okay, so if I should over here, we're going to see that we had a padding left and right. So if I should highlight this, we have padding, we can see it. So we want it now. This padding looks good on desktop, but on mobile we want to actually change it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, by default, the padding is going to be, instead of 0 pixels 50 pixels, it's going to be, let's say, 20 pixels. All right, let's see that. Okay, this is looking better. So it's going to be 20 pixels, and then we want it when it scales up to 576, we don't want to still change anything. 768, we don't really want to. Okay, let's try 768. Okay, we're going to increase it to, let's say, 40, and then by the time we get to desktop, we're going to increase it to, let's just 60. Okay, okay, by 768 we see that the padding right here increased. Okay, so now we have the style that's added is 0 and 20 pixels right here. Okay, so but once we increase to this point, and then we can see the browser automatically pass it and applies this 40 pixels. And when we increase to 992 or so, and then let's see, okay, we see that we have 60 pixels added right here. All right, now the next thing I actually want to quickly do is, at this particular point, at this point here, I don't want this. I want it to be stacked on top each other, because this might look too small by the time I'm trying to click on it with my finger on mobile. Okay, so let's do this. What I'm going to do is, by default, okay, I'm going to make it, let's see, this flex box. I'm going to change the flex direction to column. Okay, so let's save that and let's see what we have. All right, we have this, and then another thing is, I'm going to change this to 100%. Okay, all right, so now this works as intended. This works as intended, but then we also want it that by the time we now scale up, okay, this is going to change also. Then what we're going to basically do is, I'm going to copy these menu links, and then by the time we get to, let's see, maybe tablet, okay, I'm going to paste this here, and then I want, the only thing I need to change is the flex direction, right? So the flex direction, I'm going to change it to row. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and then the next thing is, remember we also changed this width. We're going to then change the width back to 25% each. So I'm going to change this to 25%. Okay, now let's save that and let's see what that would give us. Okay, right here it's giving us this, and we love it. It makes sense. Okay, what if we increase it? We increase it. By the time we get to tablet, all right, we can see that changed. Okay, so you can get a view of, okay, how this responsive stuff actually work. So same way, if you have a particular element you want to hide, okay, you want to hide it on desktop, you want to hide it on desktop and show it on mobile, or you want to hide it on mobile and show it on desktop. Okay, so we're going to do something like, so I'm going to say this, hide on mobile, and this we want it to hide on desktop. Okay, so we're going to add a class to each one of these, and then for this hide on mobile, I'm going to add a class of hide on mobile, and then for this I'm going to add a class of hide on desktop. Okay, so how about we try to do something? So here I'm going to just select the class hide on mobile, and what I'm going to basically do is, right here the display is going to be hidden. Okay, oh sorry, display none rather. All right, and we're going to copy this. By the time we get to, let's see, desktop right here, okay, and then we're going to say the display is going to be equal to block, and we're going to do the reverse for the hide on desktop. Okay, now all I just need to do is hide on desktop right here. I'm going to put it here and then display none and change this to desktop. So we don't need to add anything to the mobile view since by default it's going to show the display is going to be blocked. Okay, but when we get to desktop device, we actually want the display to be hidden. So I'm going to save that and let's come right here to desktop. Okay, so right here we can see hide on desktop. It's showing, and then by the time we increase. Okay, by the time watch here. By the time we get to 992 and above. Okay, so and then hide on desktop, and then we see it's changed to hide on mobile. So you can see how to actually hide and display elements using media query. Alright, so another thing I can do is I can decide to write a particular CSS styles that to apply, or a set of styles that's going to apply only on desktop breakpoint. So let's come right into our code. I can have some this mean with this particular breakpoint we have right here. Okay, I want to actually add a color, a body to the body, and then we'll say black. And then I can have the color to be, let's say, white. Okay, we can have these, and if I should save this, let's test right here in our browser. By the time we get to 992 and above, so 992, okay, we're going to see this particular styles being added. Okay, but if we should come to, let's say, 991, okay, we won't have that added. So that's one thing to take note. And on a final note, you can also write styles for orientation. So let's say a particular device is in maybe portrait or landscape. Now let's come to a mobile breakpoint right here. Okay, something around this, or you can just select this and let's simulate, okay, this iPhone 11 Pro. All right, this is looking good and nice, but what if a user decides to, okay, rotate to landscape? Okay, we're going to have something like this, and this is going to be for portrait. Okay, you can decide to write different CSS styles to take notes. Maybe there's a particular element you want to be displayed in a particular way when it comes to when the device is being rotated. You can actually write that, and it's very simple. Okay, right here, I'm just going to come here and say at media, and then I'm going to say by the time its orientation is landscape. Okay, what I want is I'm just going to override this particular set of styles, and then I'm going to just paste it right here, and then let's say um okay, we're going to use this, and instead of width we're going to use white. All right, let's save that and let's see what we have. Okay, we can see that by default, whenever we switch to, okay, we rotate to maybe landscape, when it's in landscape from portrait, we're going to have this. All right, this is fine, but by the time it comes back to portrait, okay, we can see the normal styles, and if it should come to landscape, we can see this. All right, what if we actually do something like this and we'll go back to our desktop view? Okay, we are still seeing the styles for portrait added. So here's a quick question you might have: where should you exactly add this, and why is this behaving this way? Now the reason why we're having this behavior is because of the cascading nature of CSS. Okay, so even though it gets to this particular breakpoint right here, while reading the CSS file downward, okay, it checks. Now if there is any other styles that actually overrides that, which we have put here, okay, the browser will show this instead. So that is why even when we got to 163, when we got above 992 pixels, we are still having this for the landscape. So if you want, okay, these particular styles to only be added while it's on landscape and it hasn't gotten to this, a better way would be to just add your or landscape view styles first. Okay, so let's see how that is going to work. By the time we get to 1163, or let's put 992, okay, we can see the styles for that particular breakpoint added. But if we should come below that, we can see the styles for the orientation added. Okay, and if we should toggle, okay, this is portrait and this is landscape, and if we should increase, this is desktop. Now we've come to the end of this particular lesson. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Thank you.